All right. It is a great day in South Florida. My name is Chris Igoe. Welcome to Living in South Florida. We've got big news. We've got breaking news that I feel compelled to share with you because it is highly critical to understand exactly what's going on in the market in real time right now. All right, so let's get right into it. Housing market data is in for July. Zillow has confirmed a housing recession. What does that mean to you? How does that impact you? We're going to get into that right now. Separately, I will showcase exactly what's happening in my market. I'm going to go a little bit wider than I normally do. So I will talk about Boynton, Delray, Boca Raton, give you a boots on the ground perspective as to what's happening right now. I speak to so many consumers, buyers and sellers that are confused about what's happening in the market. There are some people that are out there that actually think that the market has not shifted, that it has not changed. And it's not too surprising because you've got other people out there that insist that we're not even in a recession and that inflation really isn't happening.
Chairman Powell and many of the significant banking personnel and economists say we're not in a recession.
But ain't nobody got time for that. What we do have time for is what's happening right now in my market, in a market which has exploded with inventory and has tons of competition. And yet we went out there and got them a full price cash offer and made our sellers very happy. So despite what you may have heard or what you might believe, please understand that homes are selling at full price and in some cases over full price if they're the right home, the right product, with all the things that buyers want to be able to max out South Florida living to the fullest. Separate to that, I'm also going to share with you exactly what's happening in terms of new construction in my market. I've talked a lot in the past about the fact that there is no more land to develop in Southeast Palm Beach County. Very scarce land, very scarce resource. And separate to that, I'm going to share exactly what's happening right now in the new construction, in the new developments that exist in Boca Raton. There's no more land to develop. I've shared this in the past, and that's why I think we are insulated in my market relative to other places. But GL Homes is launching a new community. They are offering all kinds of new incentives. I think it's relevant that you understand what they are so that you get a context as to what's happening right now in the market and also what their plans are in terms of potential new development, given, as I said, there's no more land to develop. So if learning more about all of that is your thing, then please stick around to the end, and I promise I will not let you down. Boom! Boom, we're live. All right, July numbers are out. The data speaks for itself. We're going to start macro. We're going to go micro. We're going to work our way from the big picture all the way down to the granularity that exists within my market space. And let's start with the giant. Let's start with real estate titan Zillow, who goes out there and says they see tough times ahead in housing. Really? I had no idea. Well, I wouldn't exactly call that news, but it is instructive to remember that Zillow is also out there saying that they're expecting somewhere between 7 and 8% appreciation over the course of the next year. Nonetheless, they see tough times ahead, and I don't disagree with them. But let's see what the data for July actually says. Here's what it says. It says that home sales fell nearly 6% in July as the housing market slides into a recession. I hope none of this comes as a shock to anybody who's been watching for a while here. And if you are new to the channel, then welcome aboard. And if you are a longtime watcher, I want to let you know you mean the world to me. So thank you so much for continuing to participate in my journey. And please, if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button now. It means the world to me. It helps me go out there and continue to create content to educate, to inform, to empower you to make the best decisions for yourself, for your family, and for your financial bottom line. And I want to help as many people as I possibly can. So give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and just know I love you for it. All right, so home sales fell 6% as the housing market slides into a recession. And you can see that sales dropped 20% from last month. Bear in mind, this is the national number. It's going to be very interesting to see what those numbers look like as we drill down into the more localized markets that exist here in South Florida. But before we do that, let's check out what Lawrence Yun, chief economist for Realtors, has to say. In terms of economic impact, we are surely in a recession because builders are not building. Now, that might be true on a national level, but let's see if that's actually true here in my market, because I suspect it's not true. But let's keep on working through the data. Before we get into the data, I think it's important that I share a recent example of exactly what's happened in my market over the last week. And many of you who may watch the channel might have seen my luxury tour video, which came out about a week ago. And it was interesting because I got a lot of flack from some of the viewers and insisted that that house would sell at 50 or 60% less than full list price. I obviously knew that wasn't going to be the case, but truthfully, I don't know anything until I do. But here's what I did know. I priced it right. I had world-class marketing, an all-star team to help insulate and support me to be able to go out there and find the one buyer on planet Earth willing to pay more than anybody else. Now, full disclosure, this property took a lot longer to get under contract relative to the past. And when I say a lot longer, please keep in mind, I'm talking about 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks is not really a very long time to wait for your home to sell. But what I did know was we had tons of showings. Now, to be clear, we're not sitting on our hands and waiting for some other agent to bring a buyer. We're actively and aggressively marketing the home. But within that 2 week period, we had a ton of showings. We did receive multiple offers. Now, one of the things that you must be aware of if you are thinking about selling or if your home's on the market, you must work with a professional that understands the market conditions. So just because you get a contract that might not be the price that you want it to be right out the gates does not mean that you have to accept that contract or that's what the market is. Nonetheless, over the course of those 2 weeks, we did receive 5 purchase contracts on the home. And of course, my obligation is to present these offers to the seller and then give them advice so that they can make the best decision for themselves, their family, and for their financial bottom line. Now, you may be curious, what was my advice? And full disclosure, of those contracts, 2 of those contracts were also buyers that I represented. And what does that mean to you? It means if I had put them under contract and they bought the home, I would have got a double whammy commission. Well, I'll be totally transparent with you. The truth is, I don't need their business. I obviously value it, but my primary objective in the pursuit of the sale of this home is to get my sellers the most money possible. Of course, as a transaction broker, I can facilitate both sides of the transaction, but at the end of the day, I know for certain that we're going to get the most money possible for our sellers. And because there's a competitive market, I'm not the one dictating price, they are. Nonetheless, my advice to my sellers was do not accept these contracts. Let me do my job. Thankfully, they did. We received a full price cash offer, set a record in the community, and off they will go to max out the rest of their life. And that is exactly why it's critical to have a professional that understands what they're doing so that you don't leave money on the table. But enough of my humble brag story. Let's get right into the numbers and see what they are because they've changed and they are very instructive. We are going to start in Delray Beach. Now, Delray Beach has been in fuego for quite some time. The uptick in supply in Delray Beach is something to be aware of. I've talked about this in a lot of other videos that we're going to continue to see supply increase, and that's exactly what we've seen. So, month supply of inventory in July is up 50%. 1.8 months to 2.7 months. 4 months of inventory is a neutral market. 5 months is a buyer's market. Bear in mind, this is July. We're already in August. When August numbers come out in September, these numbers are going to be far closer to a buyer's market than a seller's market. That's critical information to know because if you're thinking about buying, you've got leverage, you've got options. If you're thinking about selling, you must get in front of that competition. That's month supply, but the inventory of homes went up close to 17%. The metric that I think is most telling is average sales price. If you've watched any of my content in the past, and as we go into some of the other cities, what you're going to see is massive value changes. It's been 20%, 25% month over month. In some cases, it's been more than that, but it's been extreme appreciation. This is the first month in a very long time that Delray Beach has what I would refer to as normal appreciation. And that normal appreciation is 1.5%. And I hope none of this sounds familiar to you because I've been calling for a normal rate of return similar to 2019 for the last year. And I'll continue to pound that drum as we continue into the future. Call it like I see it, shoot from the hip, tell you the truth so that you can make the best decisions for yourself, for your family, and for your financial bottom line. Now let's check out Boca Raton because the supply side has increased exponentially. Month supply of inventory is up 94% to 3.3 months. If you remember, I talked about 4 months being a neutral market, 5 months being a buyer's market. Bear in mind, these are July numbers. They are lagging. So when August numbers come out, you can rest assured we're looking at a buyer's market. How extreme, yet to be determined, but this is where we're at right now. So if you are thinking about buying in Boca Raton, and I had tons of people from around the country and around the world who hired me to help find their dream homes and dream lifestyles in Boca Raton. You couldn't get a home 6 months ago. You couldn't get a home a year ago. And it wasn't because you weren't qualified and didn't have the money. It's because the intensity of the competition was so insane. There were no options. But today, there are. You've got leverage. You've got negotiating power. You can get what you want. And I suspect you can probably negotiate a very nice deal. Okay, so let's look at inventory of homes for sale. That's up 39%. That's up 40%. So the supply side numbers are going through the roof. If you're a longtime viewer, you know I've been talking about supply and demand, Economics 101 for a very long time. But for the first time in a long time, supply's through the roof and demand is simply not as strong. Now, as you can see, Boca home values have appreciated at a higher clip than what they did in Delray. And I will warn you, that is a misleading number, in my opinion. The reason for that is the interest rates were more favorable when they were rate locked previous to these sales. Now, I know the interest rate market has changed on mortgages. It's a dynamic number that changes all the time, but I can say it was more favorable then than it is now, and the numbers reflect that. But nonetheless, average sales price in Boca Raton was up 21%. Now let's check out Boynton. Boynton, home sweet home. All right, Boynton Beach, where I live, the city in which I live. Those numbers are out too. Let's see what the trend reveals. No surprise, we've got a massive increase in supply. So as you can see, month supply of inventory exploded 67%. Now, to be clear, 2 months of supply is still a seller's market. Keep in mind, it's July. We're now in August. August numbers will come out in September. That supply number will absolutely increase. But nonetheless, I mentioned previously with the home that we just got under contract, if you price your home the right way, if you market it the right way, if it's the right product in the right neighborhood with all the things, you will still set a record and get exactly what you want, assuming you're working with the right professional. Now, if you're local, I hope that professional is me, so please reach out anytime and we would love to help. If you are not in my market, if you are someplace else in the country, please know I am networked with the best of the best everywhere in the country. These are sales professionals that I know, I like, I trust, I have fully vetted, and they will absolutely get the job done for you. If you are interested in being connected with one of those professionals, then please click this link and I will connect you to the best of the best in your area, and they will not let you down. Okay, so back to the numbers. Boynton Beach, month supply of inventory is up to 2 months, 67% increase. Inventory of homes for sale is up almost 40%. That is a huge jump. Sales price, which is misleading, also is on the uptick, and that was up 19%. Now, if you've paid attention to any of the previous videos that I've done, what you'll see is that appreciation gain is not as explosive as it was in the past. So in the past, we've seen 25, 30, 40% month over month. You can see that appreciation becoming more normalized. It's still appreciation. 19% is nothing to shake a stick at, but I suspect what we're going to see is something a lot more normal, something like 2 to 4%. Yet to be determined, I don't know, but this is what the numbers are right now. Now, before I pivot out, I want to let you know within Boynton Beach, within South Florida, there is tremendous development that's happening all over the place. What I'm specifically referencing is the downtown Boynton Beach coastal area, which is getting injected with an $80 million mixed use project. If you've been down to the Boynton Marina or you've seen it in any of my other videos, it's an incredible place to go check out and max out South Florida living to the fullest. You can rent jet ski, there's live music, there's 2 bars and restaurants, there's charter fishing, there's scuba, there's really anything you could possibly want. That area to me has an old, rustic South Florida charm. I suspect the municipality is a little bit jealous of Delray Beach and Atlantic Avenue, and they really want to revitalize this area. And that's what they're doing. So this project is going to inject some vibrancy, some excitement, obviously some money into the area, which is going to include almost 17,000 feet of restaurant and commercial space, 236 apartment units, and some parking, which is important because if you've ever been in the area, you know getting a parking spot is not exactly optimal. But what is optimal is the experience you will have if you are in this area. Because right now it's an incredibly fun place to go, and nothing against Delray Beach, but I'd prefer to commute less and skip that traffic altogether if there was a better option. And I suspect there will be soon. Projects should roll out somewhere in 2023. Now, in past videos, I've talked about builders really being one of the leading indicators that help us gauge the temperature of the market. And in the past, many builders were not out there being particularly broker and or buyer friendly, meaning there were no incentives. The truth is they had all the leverage because they had the supply and the demand was completely insane. You may have seen some of my videos highlighting Lotus Palm. Well, this past week I had the opportunity to attend their Brokers Open, and I will be doing a video showcasing more about the community. But that's not the point of this. The point of this is they are now offering incentives. And I'll pop this in so that you can see it a little bit better. But GL has not offered incentives to buyers or agents in a very long time. In 2019, when Arden was being developed, the builder was offering insane incentives, upgrades, financing, closing costs, and 7 or 8% commission for the buyer's agent. But that was then, and this is now. Builders haven't offered incentives in a long time, but they're back. And that tells me that the insanity of the market is returning to normal. I'm not going to make you wait until I do my next video featuring Lotus Palm. I'll tell you what the incentives are. And don't get too excited because these incentives really aren't the best incentives I've ever seen. But for the first time in a long time, GL is offering $15,000 towards the buyer's closing cost. Now, that's what they're publicly saying right now. I can promise you if the market deteriorates in a big way, those incentives will change and they will be more buyer friendly. But best I can tell, based on my experience at the Brokers Open and based on my experience in dealing with them in the past and being friends with a lot of people in the sales center, demand for this one is through the roof. And I suspect they're going to sell out fast, but yet to be determined. I don't know. I will tell you this. If you are thinking about registering for the lottery to be able to buy a home in Lotus Palm or really buy new construction anywhere, do not reach out to them directly. Reach out to me. And the reason I say that is the builder and the builder sales team, they will always advocate for the builder's financial bottom line. It is very important to have a third-party professional there to keep them accountable and ensure that you get the best deal possible. So if you're thinking about buying new construction or registering for Lotus Palm, please reach out directly. All right, so we've covered Lotus Palm, covered a lot of Southeast Palm Beach County, and I know I mentioned previously that there is no more land to build, and that's true. However, GL is trying to negotiate the rights to be able to build even more. GL has aggressively been pursuing the rights to develop anywhere they can get their hands on in Southeast Palm Beach County and other regions. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think that's a good thing, because in some cases, I actually don't. But what I think is irrelevant, and money talks and BS walks. They want to build $1 billion plus development in the agricultural reserve west land of Boca Raton. Agricultural land, in my opinion, should remain agricultural land. And yes, I know that every builder, every developer wants to max out the highest and best use of all land. As a 40-year resident and essentially now a native, I can tell you at some point, enough's enough. We don't need to destroy the environment any more than we already have. But I'll take off my environmentalist hat and put my realtor hat back on. But as you can see, they're going after this preserved land, and their intent is to build and develop $1 billion development, which to me is a pretty good indicator as to what direction they think the market's going. But I am curious where you think the market's going to go. So if you would, please let me know in the comments down below. And if you would, please check out my next video, because I suspect you're going to love it a lot. And if you have not subscribed yet, now's the time. It means the world to me. And if you're even thinking about moving to or living in South Florida, you've got to give me a call, text, DM, send a carrier pigeon, a smoke signal, by any means necessary, because we've got your back when it comes to moving to or living in South Florida. And until next time,